presentation. You have the floor, sir.
We will first have a video.
Somalia is located in the Horn of Africa, mainland Africa's easternmost country, covering 637,000 square kilometers and a terrain consisting mainly of plateaus, plains, and highlands. Somalia has the longest coastline in Africa, stretching over 3,300 kilometers along the Gulf of Aden to the north and the Indian Ocean to the east and south. It has land boundaries with 3 countries, Djibouti, Ethiopia, and Kenya. Somalia is increasingly susceptible to environmental and climate change impacts due to its geographical setting, with most of the country considered arid and semi-arid lands. The country suffers disproportionately from the climate-related crisis, despite contributing very minimally to the causes. Environmental and climate change-related droughts, intermittent floods, and desert locust infestation have resulted in the loss of livestock and crop production, which account for more than 60% of GDP and directly and indirectly employs millions. Moreover, the impact of climate change and conflict are interlinked in Somalia. The environment conflict nexus disproportionately affects the most vulnerable, particularly women and children. Considerable demographical shifts from rapid urbanization caused by climate change have also negatively transformed the economy and Somali society. Following 23 years of civil strife and state collapse that devastated the economy, infrastructure, and public institutions, in 2012, the Somali people agreed to a provisional constitution, formed its parliament, and constituted the Federal Republic of Somalia, comprising of the federal government and federal member states. Somali lawmakers voted in a new president on the 15th of May 2022, marking the third federal election since 2012, resulting in yet another successful peaceful transfer of power and further solidifying Somalia's democratic stability. In the past decade, Somalia has made significant development progress with the establishment of a federalized system of government, with step-by-step efforts leading to the envisioned federal state structure. Somalia has also made good progress in recent years in its institutional and economic reconstruction, with significant macro-fiscal reforms supported by the IMF, which have led to sustained economic growth. The security situation has improved over the past years, but still requires significant attention to realise the goal of a fully stable and peaceful country. Somalia's commitment to achieving the SDGs and the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development is solid and well-founded, and this commitment is clearly articulated in the 9th National Development Plan. The 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development is an ambitious undertaking, especially for a country such as Somalia. In the fragile economic and political context, tackling multidimensional poverty, as well as implementing complex institutional renovations, have been monumental undertakings. The nation's annual budget is slowly aligning to the SDGs to ensure policy outcomes and to facilitate better monitoring. The government is also adopting a pragmatic approach through a phased implementation of the SDGs under the principles of inclusion and sustainability. Somalia's first VNR process has provided a unique and welcomed opportunity to take stock and reflect on Somalia's immense progress, while also gauging national capacity and gaps, particularly in policy making. This process has also helped to reaffirm the government's national commitment towards the implementation of the SDGs. The launch in June 2022 of the online SDG data visualization dashboard and the online goal tracker to monitor the performance of the SDGs will improve SDG monitoring while increasing public awareness and participation in the process.
Vice President of ECOSOC, His Excellency Diego Rodriguez, the Permanent Representative of Bolivia to the UN, Vice President of El Salvador, distinguished ministers, excellencies, delegates, ladies and gentlemen. I'm speaking on behalf of the Minister of Planning of the Federal Government of Somalia, His Excellency Ambassador Gamal Hassan, who could not be here today because the recent elected administration is about to form its new cabinet within the next few days. If I may start with an overview of the key facts about Somalia. Somalia is located in the Horn of Africa and has the longest coast in Africa, stretching over 3,300 kilometers along the Gulf of Aden to the north and the Indian Ocean to the east and south. It has land boundaries with Djibouti, Ethiopia, and Kenya. Following 23 years of civil strife and state collapse that devastated the economy, infrastructure, and public institutions, in 2012, the Somali people agreed to a provisional constitution, formed its parliament, constituted the federal government of Somalia, comprising of the federal government of Somalia and the federal member states. Somali lawmakers voted in a new president on the 15th of May 2022, marking the third federal election since 2012 and yet another peaceful transfer of power. Somalia has achieved remarkable progress in advancing critical economic reforms supported by the IMF that culminated in achieving the HIPC decision point in March 2022. Another critical fact that we shall see more of in later slides is the fact that Somalia is increasingly susceptible to environmental and climate change impacts. In preparation for the VNR, 5 consultation workshops were held involving more than 200 stakeholders, including government and civil society. Consultations with civil society revealed profound awareness and engagement in SDGs by women and youth groups and academia. One university had already been conducting research on Somalia's SDG implementation for the past 3 years. We also try to make our VNR as evidence-based as possible and use data from recent surveys. Somalia has developed an online data visualization dashboard and an online goal tracker to monitor the performance of the SDGs. Both platforms strengthen coordination and data availability by providing a transparent and interactive platform to track Somalia's progress towards the SDGs. Specifically, the dashboard presents infographics of all available data with each goal by reporting against the targets and indicators. The goal tracker explores the data and has its own function to download the data sources. We are presenting the goal tracker at a special virtual session entitled VNR Lab 14, Data Innovations for Evidence-Based VNR, tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. The 9th National Development Plan, which runs from 2020 to 2022, is the national instrument for implementing the SDGs in Somalia. 80 of the 103 indicators from the NDP-9 are directly aligned with the SDGs. The next few slides will be about Somalia's progress on SDGs, starting with the economy. Remittances are an important source of income in Somalia, where the unemployment rate is just over 20%. Individuals' remittance to Somalia has been increasing since the start of COVID. Somalia's economy has been growing almost double digits before the COVID-19. But real GDP in 2020 shrunk by 0.3% as a result of flooding, locust invasion, and COVID-19. Somalia's economy is dollarized, with the US dollar accounting for 98% of transactions. The inflation rate in Somalia has been increasing in the last 2 years, resulting in an overall increase of more than 10% in the last 2 years. Healthcare products and services went up 30% during this period. Also, food is up 15%. The inflation rate is largely as a result of global issues such as the rise in oil prices, the war in Ukraine, COVID-19, But there are also local factors such as drought and desert locust invasion. A notable progress has been made in water and sanitation, with significant increase in the number of people accessing water services and a significant decrease in the proportion of people practicing open defecation. Also, a remarkable progress has been made in industry, innovation, and infrastructure. Mobile and internet infrastructure have flourished under what is largely a self-regulated private sector system, with internet and mobile access being comparatively inexpensive. Access to 3G data has increased by 40% in 2016 to 65% in 2017. In the health sector, Somalia made progress in improving its maternal mortality rate, but work is underway to also improve other indicators in the health sector. The education sector was heavily impacted by the dissolution of the central government in 1991. However, as security improved, Somali intellectuals, including the newly elected president who has a background in the education sector, and businesses revived the sector by establishing and reopening education institutions across the country in the last 2 decades. The government is progressively assuming its role in undertaking key interventions to revive the education sector. However, challenges remain. Almost 80% of the adults in Somalia experience moderate or severe food insecurity. The country is currently in a severe drought, which continues to keep the region in the grasp of famine. Despite growing urbanization and expanded use of renewable energy, access to clean and renewable energy have actually decreased. 3/4 of the gender-based violence are reported in the internally displaced settlements. It's also worth noting that Somalia has a large number of IDPs. The COVID-19 pandemic has initially exacerbated GBV rates, but has since come down back to pre-pandemic rates. The number of women elected as representatives in the federal parliament have slightly decreased from 24% in 2016 to 20% in 2022. However, for the first time in Somalia's history, a woman was elected as a deputy speaker of the parliament, the most powerful position elected to a woman in Somalia. On the right is a picture of the outspoken deputy speaker of the federal parliament, Honorable Ms. Saadia Samatar. As mentioned earlier, Somalia has suffered from more frequent and prolonged climate-related disasters such as drought, floods, and locust invasion in the last 2 years. These disasters continue to destroy Somalia's ecosystem, threaten food security, and inflict conflict over scarce resources. Notwithstanding these challenges, the Somali government has made considerable effort to institutionalize and mainstream adaptations to build resilience to the worsening impact of climate change. Challenges abound in Somalia. Below is a highlight of the key constraint in our VNR. One of the significant challenges was actually that data was hard to come by, so in many instances we used data collected by international agencies as proxy data. As a way forward and next steps to address challenges, we plan to document lessons learned and improve coordination and engagement with SDG stakeholders. One of the key takeaways from Somalia's VNR preparation is the importance of data for planning and monitoring progress, and the need to build national statistical capacity and improve collaboration and coordination with international partners. Somalia's VNR process has provided a unique and welcome opportunity to take stock of Somalia's immense progress while also gauging national capacity and gaps, particularly in policy making. It is our hope that this report acts as a reference point and a good baseline to review the progress and to build on future VNRs, as well as inform policymakers and international partners alike. Somalia has a long way to go to achieve the SDGs, and considerable support is needed to accelerate progress at the level required to attain Agenda 2030 for Sustainable Development. As the government embarks on structural, legislative, institutional reforms to serve the people better and achieve goals that are set out in the NDP 9 and the SDG, Somalia faces headwinds in the form of economic contraction brought about by COVID-19 and severe droughts. But the SDGs provide firm pillars on which to base development. The country continues to move forward, instilling peace, prosperity, and unity at the heart of every Somali man, woman, and child. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the end of the Somalia VNR presentation. I thank you for listening. We look forward to your remarks, questions, comments, and suggestions. Thank you very much.
I thank the Director General of the National Bureau of Statistics of Somalia for the presentation, and we'll now hear comments and questions from states and other participants. Delegations and participants who wish to intervene are invited to press the microphone button on the console. I want to emphasize that since we are very behind schedule, the limitation of 2 minutes